of the most common questions I get from buyers is, will the seller finance part of the deal? And my honest answer is maybe, but only if you understand what you're asking for, why it matters, and how it actually works. So seller financing can absolutely help you buy a childcare center, but it's not a magic solution, and it's definitely not free money. In fact, it comes with its own risk, responsibilities, and costs that most buyers really don't see coming. So today we're going to break down everything you need to know before you ask for seller financing, so you can walk into those conversations prepared, confident, and not surprised by what comes next. So let's do the quick disclaimer. Before we dive in, a quick but important note. None of what I'm about to share is legal or financial advice. This video is meant for educational purposes only. Every deal is different, and you should always consult with your own attorney, CPA, and lender before entering into a seller financing agreement or any agreement at all. So what seller financing really is? Let's start with the basics. Seller financing is when the seller acts as the lender for part of the purchase price. Instead of you borrowing that portion from a bank, you agree to pay the seller back directly over time, usually through a promissory note with monthly payments. It's often used to bridge the gap between what the bank will finance and what the seller wants for the business. For example, maybe the bank is willing to finance 85% of the deal, and you have 10% cash to put down. Seller financing might cover that remaining 5%. But here's the most important thing to understand. This is a negotiation, not a guarantee. Sellers are under no obligation to offer financing. Whether they will depends on how much risk they're willing to take on, how much they trust you, and how the rest of the deal is structured. It's a privilege, not a promise. A big mistake I see buyers make is assuming seller financing is something they're entitled to, and it's not. It's a favor, and one that comes with risk for the seller. If they agree to finance part of your purchase, they're trusting that you'll not only run the business successfully, but also pay them back over time and on time. That's a leap of faith, and one they won't take lightly. This means your experience, your business plan, your financial position, and how you present yourself all matter. Sellers don't offer financing because someone asked nicely. They offer it because they believe they'll get their money back. You'll still need a lender and cash. So another common misconception that seller financing will replace the need for a bank or for your own capital. And most of the time, it's not going to. Most childcare transactions still involve a bank loan, often through the SBA, and most lenders only allow seller financing for about 10 to 15% of the total price. They also usually require you to bring your own cash to the table. Seller financing is meant to supplement a deal, not fund the entire thing. If you're hoping it will replace your down payment or cover the whole purchase price, you're probably going to be disappointed. And honestly, if you're not bringing any of your own money to the table, most sellers won't even consider it. So expect liens, guarantees, and legal protections. So here's another reality check. If the seller is financing part of your purchase, they're going to protect that investment, just like a bank would. That means you should fully expect liens to be placed on the property, the business assets, or sometimes even your personal assets. Personal guarantees are common. So are acceleration clauses, which allow the seller to call the full loan due if you default on payments. I've seen many buyers surprised or even offended when they learn that a seller might require a lien or a personal guarantee. But this isn't personal. It's business and standard business practices. So the seller is essentially acting as your lender, and lenders always secure their loans. There are additional costs. Another thing buyers often don't realize is that seller financing isn't free to set up. There are additional costs you'll likely encounter, including attorney fees to draft the promissory note and legal documents, recording fees for liens and UCC filings, legal review cost on your end to make sure you understand the terms. These aren't usually massive expenses, but they're real, and you should factor them into your deal budget. Understand the terms and conditions. Seller financing also comes with its own set of terms, and they're not always what buyers expect. So interest. Seller financing notes typically carry interest, often at a rate higher than what a bank would charge. Balloon payments. So many seller notes are only structured for about 3 to 5 years, with the remaining remaining balance due in a lump sum at the end. That means you'll need to refinance or pay off the balance before the balloon date. Acceleration clauses. Miss a payment and the entire remaining balance could become due immediately. In other words, this isn't easy money. It's a real loan with real legal consequences if you don't meet the terms. So prove you're worth the risk. When a seller finances part of the deal, they're betting on you. So it's your job to show them you're a good bet. Come prepared with a well thought out business plan, solid financial and evidence of your ability to repay, a clear transition plan showing how you'll take over operations, strong communication and professionalism throughout the process. The more confident a seller is in you, the more likely they'll be willing to offer financing, and possibly on better terms. So how to approach it the right way? How do you ask a seller for seller financing without raising red flags or hurting your chances of getting it? Here's my advice. Build trust first. Focus on the relationship and credibility before discussing terms. Be prepared. Have your lender, down payment, and documentation ready. Frame it as a solution. Don't present seller financing as a demand or a sign you can't afford the deal. Present it as a part of a mutually beneficial structure. Expect protections. Don't act surprised when liens, personal guarantees, attorney fees, or balloon payments come up. They're part of the process. And they're also part of the process a lot of times in just buying a business in general or real estate. So final thoughts. Seller financing can be a really powerful tool, but only if you approach it with the right mindset and expectations. It's not a shortcut around having capital, and it's not a way to avoid working with the bank. It's a structured agreement that shifts some risk to the seller, and they're going to protect themselves accordingly. If you walk into the conversation prepared with strong financials, a clear plan, and realistic expectations, you'll stand out as a serious buyer and increase your chances of making seller financing part of a successful deal. And to help you navigate those conversations, I've created a free resource, the Seller Financing Playbook. It walks you through the key questions to ask, what to expect, and how to prepare before you ever make the request. So go ahead and download it now in the resource library, and while you're there, make sure to join my buyer list for early access to new listings before they hit the market.